Welcome to Roger's That Podcast. For today's podcast, Podcast Meets Podcast. Your hosts for today's podcast are
Jessica,
Sophia,
and Galilea.
And today we have a special guest, Kira Dineen. Dean, right?
Dineen, yeah, you got it.
And today we have a great opportunity to interview her in person, who is a multi-award-winning podcast host, producer, exploring how genetics impacts our health. Welcome, Kira.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for taking your time to talk with us today. Our goal is to help our viewers learn more about potential jobs and careers in our community. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
This is very exciting. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Sure. So I grew up in Brookfield, about 25 minutes from here, from Roger Park Middle School. And I loved growing up in the area, similar to you guys. And I went to the University of Connecticut for college, and then I went to Sarah Lawrence College for my next degree, about an hour from here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and DNA today?
Sure. So I started my podcast a little older than you guys. You guys really, started very young here. I'm impressed. So I started when I was in high school, and I wanted to explore, as you guys mentioned, different podcasts and just different angles with that. And I started with the Hunger Games podcast. Do you guys know what the Hunger Games is? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then after I figured that out, I started a genetics podcast called DNA Today that I'm still doing. So I was about 16 when I started. And I wanted to, like all of you, talk to people that work in genetics and learn about different careers in that. So I figured that would be a fun way to do it.
How did you decide to make a podcast?
So when I was in 8th grade, so only 2 years older than the three of you, I started listening to a Harry Potter podcast. You guys know what Harry Potter is? Yes. So I started listening to a Harry Potter podcast, and then I found out the people that made that podcast were only 5 years older than me. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I could start a podcast. So that's kind of how I was inspired. And I figured out, should I do a blog post, a podcast? And a podcast just seemed much more fun. So.
What kinds of awards have you won for your podcast?
Good question. So I think the one I'm most proud of is the People's Choice Podcast Award, where people all over the world vote for which podcast they think is the best. So we've been nominated 6 times, and we've won 3 times. So that's been very exciting. Even have a little award statue. And we've won a few other awards as well, but that's the one where I'm like, yes, I made it.
Who are some of the most interesting people you have interviewed?
I think some local authors have been pretty cool. So Dani Shapiro is one that lives in Connecticut, about maybe an hour and a half from here. And she wrote a few books, so that was very cool to interview her. I interviewed some people that are actors, so people that have been on different TV shows and movies, so that's been pretty cool. And my favorite one has been interviewing the director of the NIH, which is like the health part of the government. So interviewing him was really cool because he's a leader in genetics. He basically did the biggest genetic projects of the past few decades. So that was very cool. And he's very tall, so I look very short compared to him.
What's the most exciting interview episode you've done on your podcast?
Another exciting one was I got to interview people that have been on Netflix before. Ooh. So that was really cool. So I interviewed a famous chef baker, Sandra Lee. So that was cool. She has a Netflix show. And then I also interviewed other Netflix people that had a documentary. And so that was really fun because they got to be featured in it. And so I got to like email with Netflix people, and they're
That's
like, yep,
cool.
we can approve this person to come on your show. And so that was pretty cool. I kind of felt like, wow, this is a big deal working with Netflix and HBO. I did an episode with HBO. So yeah, some pretty big names in the industry, because everybody knows Netflix, right?
Yeah. Wait, what are some of the most interesting topics you have discussed on your podcast?
Good question. So I think different technology in genetics is really cool. So there's something called CRISPR, which you guys probably haven't heard of, right? Is that a new term, CRISPR? So that's something that helps you edit genetics. So just like, we could take, if this had an eraser on it, which it doesn't because it's a highlighter, but we could erase something and then write something in on a piece of paper, right? Or if we're on the computer, we could backspace and then type something. So it's kind of a way of doing that to our genetics. So that, I think, has been one of the coolest things to talk about, of how we can actually edit our own genetics. That is the instructions for our body and how we operate.
How do you prepare for interviews with experts?
I could ask you the same thing. So it depends on who the guest is. So I think if they're an author, I read their books and I make a lot of notes while I'm reading. I also will look at other interviews they've done, other writing that they've done, look at what they have accomplished in their career, so I'm able to talk about that. So really try to study people so that I have a good sense of what they're an expert in and what I should ask them about. And also trying to find an angle or questions that maybe they don't normally get asked, to get something a little new, especially for people that do interviews a lot. Yeah, so similar to what you guys did to prepare for this interview. Yeah.
What does a podcaster do on a typical day?
Go to Roger Park Middle School. So my days are always different. So sometimes I'm interviewing people and recording, like you guys are today. Other times I am editing. I might do an interview in the morning, and then I might edit that interview in the afternoon. I might be preparing for another interview coming up, talking with sponsors. So we have over 80 sponsors of DNA Today. So that's companies that pay us so that we can run our show, and what they get in return is we get to do advertisements for them, and we get to put their name out there to our listeners. So, working with them a lot. I guest on a lot of different podcasts like this one. So I like that every day is different. I think it makes things stay interesting. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How many episodes of your podcast do you have?
I think we're at 330, something like that at this point. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you edit every episode yourself?
It depends. So recently I have been editing the episodes. In the past, we have a video editor that used to edit all of the episodes, do the video format, and then I would edit the audio format. But now the way that we edit is a little bit different, so that we kind of edit it all together, and then instead of having it be separate audio versus video, it's the same. So I've been doing more of that, but our video lead, Amanda Andrioli, she does a lot of what reels are, right, when you're on TikTok and Instagram and social media. So she's making a lot more of those now, and I'm editing more of the full episode. But it's kind of changed over time.
What do you like the most about being a podcaster? What's your favorite part of the job?
That's a good question. I love that I get to just talk to people all day, every day, right? You guys probably like talking to people. That's why you're doing the podcast. So I really like that I can sit down and start a really interesting conversation with someone right away. And we can just get into a really cool topic where if you meet someone at a party or wherever, you have to do a lot of small talk in order to find a really interesting topic to start diving into and talking about. So I really like that I get to talk to so many people, and within a couple minutes you're talking about something really interesting. When you guys come out of here and you're like, that was a really cool interview, you meet them in the office, you bring them down here, a little small talk, but right away you get to have really cool conversations and, getting to talk to people from different walks of life. Because I interview people that work in genetics like me. I interview people that have genetic conditions, or maybe they have a baby or a kid that has a genetic condition. So I get to talk to a lot of different people, which I really like because that means I'm always learning.
I have another quick question.
Yeah.
How often do you interview people?
So it definitely depends. Sometimes I'll have a week where I do 5 interviews.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
yeah, right? That's a lot sometimes. I'm like, oh, it's a busy week. And then other weeks, I won't interview anyone. So it really depends. I try to interview a lot so that I have episodes to edit and I'm not stuck like, what episode is coming out this week? Because I have my episodes come out every Friday morning at 5 a.m. I don't get up that early. I set it ahead of time to schedule it to send out. But yeah, it can really, really depend. Sometimes it's a really busy day. But I would say an average week is probably 2 interviews. That's a little bit more normal. Yeah, good question.
What kind of challenges do you face as a podcaster?
Oh, so many. I think some of it is just being able to balance a lot of episodes at once. So as you 3 have probably experienced, you don't just have one episode you're working on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your teacher's probably reaching out to multiple
We
guests.
send emails out.
Yeah, sending emails out, and then who answers, who schedules.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one at a time, right? You've got a lot going at
Yeah.
once, so it's a lot to juggle, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that that's really tough, and especially you'll have something scheduled, and then you're like, okay, great, that will be my next episode that will come out. I'll make sure to edit it, and I know your teacher helps with editing, and then that person might cancel, and you're like, oh no, what's going to be my episode coming out? So I think that can be challenging to be. It's kind of like juggling, right? It's like you've got so many up in the air to figure out. So I think that is probably one of the hardest. So I like using spreadsheets to keep track of every episode because I try to stay very organized. I like to be very organized.
Sometimes when we don't have school because of snow days,
Yeah.
our schedule is bad, so we have to change it and we have to resend emails of the dates.
Right? And isn't that, it's a little stressful. It's like, oh, we got to do all this and move everything. And then your class time gets moved and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
all
The
crazy.
entire schedule, it moves its place for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then we have to reschedule and
yeah.
resend everything.
Because
And
is your
sometimes
schedule
they can't-
rotating?
Yeah.
Is it A days, B days, like
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Okay. So snow days really throw that off.
Yeah.
Even though snow days are really fun.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
You're a podcaster with genetics, right?
Yeah.
So when you were younger, did you want to be a doctor or something like that?
That's a good question. So there was a little bit of time when I was a bit older than you guys, and I wanted to be a PA. Have you heard of that? A physician's
No.
assistant. So you're not quite a doctor, but you're right under that. You guys have probably seen a PA and maybe thought they were a doctor. So it's less school. And you get to spend more time with patients. So for a little bit, I wanted to do that.
Do you help patients?
Yeah, so you meet with patients, maybe even kids.
Is it like a pediatrician, the first doctor comes in and then the second doctor?
Yeah, sometimes that can be it, yep. Or sometimes they're the main healthcare provider that you see sometimes. So I want to do that for a little bit. So similar to a doctor. But then I learned about genetic counseling, and I was like, well, this seems like a really cool career.
So it's you go to the hospital and then you have a topic you're about to, the doctor has to see, and then before the doctor comes the PA.
Sometimes. So sometimes it's the nurse that comes in first or a medical assistant. That's a very good question. And they might take things like your blood pressure and check in with you, ask you how are you feeling and what's wrong, right? Does your throat hurt, anything like that? And then after that, you could see the doctor or the PA. So yeah, it depends. But I thought it would be cool to work with patients. Yeah.
What question are we on?
We did so many follow-up questions, which is great.
Can you discuss your job as a genetics counselor?
Yeah, so as a genetic counselor, I do meet with patients, so I did end up doing that. And so instead of being a doctor, I was like, all right, I could be a genetic counselor. And so in that, I meet with people that are pregnant. So they're going to have a baby.
My
And
mom just had a baby.
did she really? Yeah, very cool. So maybe she met with a genetic counselor. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. So we talk about how their pregnancy is going. Do they have any other kids? And then I'm sure the genetic counselor was like, well, how's your other kid's health? She probably said, she's doing pretty good. She's a really good student. She's a great podcaster. And so we talk about that. We talk about the health of other family members, like their parents, their siblings, their grandparents. And then we talk about genetic testing, which is a whole topic. Have you guys heard of genetic tests before? No. Okay. So a genetic test is usually either a saliva test, like you spit into a tube, or it's a blood test, like you get your blood drawn. Yep, which hurts a little bit, just a little pinch. And then we can look at genetics to see, is there a disease or something there? So we can actually, this is very cool. You ready for something cool?
Yes.
So we can take blood from a pregnant person, just a normal blood draw, 1 tube of blood. We send that off to the lab, and the lab is able to look at that and find the genetics of the baby in that, which is really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's something called a placenta that holds the baby. You've heard of a placenta? So
It takes care of the baby well.
yeah, it protects baby and it helps baby grow. And so then, have you guys taken any biology yet? Do you know what a cell is?
I do.
Okay, you know what a cell is. So there are cells that come off the placenta that's holding the baby, and then it goes into the pregnant person's bloodstream, and that's how, through a blood draw, we can look at that genetics and say, is there a condition there that maybe baby has? So that's the testing that I talk about. And then sometimes the patients want to do the testing, and then we'll order that, and then when we get the results back, I'll call the patients and say, okay, this is what the results came out as, and I explain it to them so that they can understand what that means.
What's it called? Blood tests get me so freaked out.
Yeah.
When I was little, I had to go to the hospital because I had I think I was sick, and they had to take my blood test.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, "Don't look down. Just
But
look up."
I always look down.
Distract yourself.
I look down and see the needle
Oh.
and the blood coming out of me.
I'm like,
Yeah.
And I scream so loud.
Yeah, because it's not, you look at it and you're like, it's like I'm in a movie or something, right?
The nurse asked my dad to close the door because everybody in the waiting
They probably
area
thought
could
something
hear me.
way worse was happening than a blood draw. Yeah. You made everybody scared in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love blood draws, but if you look away or you think of other things, usually if a patient is having their blood drawn, I always ask them what TV shows they're watching, because most people are watching a TV show. If they don't watch TV, I ask what books they're reading so that we could talk and distract them, So that's my little trick. I don't do the blood draws. I just talk to them while they're getting it done.
Once I was taking my sometimes when I get my blood thing out, it kind of ticklish.
Yeah.
It kind of itches, so
Yep.
I don't start crying. I do sometimes, but
Yeah.
I laugh instead.
Yes, laugh through being scared. Sometimes that helps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What got you interested in genetics, and was there a specific moment that made you want to study it?
So I think when I was around a little bit older than you three, so I think 7th grade is when I started learning about genetics, and I thought it was really cool. I'd ask my teacher in middle school, and I would say, well, I would ask her a question about genetics, and because we were learning about it, that was the unit we were on. She said, well, I don't know that, and we don't know that as scientists yet. And I thought that was really cool because I was like, well, maybe in my life we will learn this and we'll figure out more in genetics. And so I thought it was cool that there was a lot of questions we couldn't answer yet, and there was a lot of research to be done, and there still is. So I thought that was cool. But doing something called a Punnett square was very fun. You guys probably haven't done that yet, but it's kind of like you draw, when you're drawing a house and you draw a window and you draw a little box and then you put the cross in it. Yeah, the little line to make it look like a window pane.
Yeah.
So drawing that, it can help you figure out some genetics of how, like, a mom and dad, what they would pass down to a baby. So, like, if, like, for instance, if we look at my hair, you see how my hair comes to a little point up here, right? You see that? That's called a widow's peak. Yeah, it's kind of heart-shaped. Yeah, it's like the bottom of a heart. So with that, I could look at my parents, and at least one of them has that, and that's how I got that. And same with my ears. So you see how my ears aren't, like, attached here? The lobe, like, comes and is just kind of free-flowing. What do your ears look like? Yours are attached. What about yours are attached? Are yours different? Yours are like mine, so yours are detached. So that also we could figure out by drawing one of those windows.
I got my mom's head too.
Yeah, do you have it? Yeah, you've got a widow's peak. Yeah. And if you can roll your tongue.
No, I can't.
You can do it. Yes, you can't. And that's genetics. So we can't control that. You can't get better at it. It's just you're born with it or not. So I think just looking at that was really, really fun. And I was like, wait, I could do this and that could be my career and I could get paid to talk about genetics and teach people about genetics. I'm sold. So I said, that's what I want to do.
In my family, like, I'm pretty sure it was my grandma, but I don't know if it's earlobe.
Yeah.
That, like, it's like a little bump here.
Yeah, she's got a little bump,
Yeah.
an ear pit maybe.
She has passed that down to almost all my family.
Interesting.
I don't have it. My sister doesn't have it. My mom doesn't have it, but my niece has it.
Interesting. Very cool. Yeah, it is cool to see, like, what we pass down, right? And a lot of people will be like, you look like your mom or you look like your dad or something, right?
I don't know who I look like.
So many people say I look like my brother, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't look like my brother.
Yes,
Maybe you do.
I
I don't know.
look like my brother.
I haven't seen your brother, so I can't weigh in. But
I mean, if
My
she
brother
cuts her
looks
hair,
yeah.
she will look.
Your brother's hair is a little shorter.
I'm Alex.
He has like fluffy hair.
Okay.
And
Got a
then
lot of
it's like-
volume.
it's like faded back.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah. So I think genetics is fun, right? Of seeing it, and there's some things that are very straightforward. Like we talked about the widow's peak, rolling our tongue, or our earlobes. But there's some that's like really complex, like height, right? We can measure someone's height. I think I'm like 5'6" on a good day, 5 feet 6 inches. I'm a little taller than you guys, but there are other. You said way taller. Thank you. I take that as a big compliment. You'll get up there.
I wish.
But well, I'm the tiny one in my family. Everybody else, I'm at a party and I'm like this because everybody's over 6 feet. They could be on a basketball team. They're so tall. They could play for
I'm
Huskies.
playing basketball and I'm like getting taller. And
That's good.
My family's so tall.
Yeah, but and so
so tall.
height, that actually is hundreds of genes all play a little tiny role in how tall we are, and things like do we eat healthy, because that helps us be tall too. So there are some things that are very straightforward, and there's some that are really complex.
I eat McDonald's.
Yes. That might not make you any taller. I don't know about that.
What's one of the coolest or weirdest things you've learned about DNA?
The coolest or weirdest thing?
Weirdest.
I think we should go with weirdest,
Yeah.
right? I have to think about
My
this.
smile hurts.
You're like Barbie. I'm smiling too much. I hear. The weirdest thing, I think learning about how we can. I said before that we can edit genetics. I think that's can be really weird. So here's one so when we're growing plants, if it gets really cold outside, it's not going to grow that well, right? It might freeze, and then it's hard to grow. So scientists and farmers worked together and said, let's help the plants not freeze. So they took a tomato. Have you guys eaten a tomato before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like
I
it.
don't like it.
Okay, all right. Oh, wow. We really don't like tomatoes. All right. Well, unfortunately, this story is about a tomato. You can say you don't like tomatoes. That's
I love
fine.
corn.
Okay, you like corn. Well, I'll try to think of a corn example after. So with a tomato, the tomatoes were freezing, right, when it got really cold. So they said, how can we make the tomatoes not freeze? And so the farmers asked the scientists, how could we do this? And the scientists said, well, what if we took a gene from fish? Do you guys eat fish?
Yeah. I love
Oh,
fish.
okay. All right. We're kind of, well, it depends on the fish. Salmon is, I think, the best.
I'm allergic to
Yes.
that.
You're allergic to that. Okay, well, then don't eat that.
I don't
I
like
love
fish.
seafood, but my
Yeah.
brother's allergic to it.
So yeah, okay. So I'm really striking out with the examples here. But, so, we can also have fish as pets. I have a fish named Merlin. Anyway, so fish that swim in really, really cold water, but they can survive in cold water. They said, let's find the gene, so a little piece of our genetics, that allows them to be in really cold temperatures and survive. Let's take that gene, let's put it in the tomato so that the tomato won't freeze. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
So I have a cool, one of my teachers, Laura Hersher, she had this cool game you guys would love called Cool or Creepy, which is kind of like your question. So do we think that's cool or creepy? You have to choose one. You can't
I
do
think
both.
It's creepy.
I think it's creepy, right? Yeah, it's a little creepy.
Wait, but did the tomato stay?
So the tomato doesn't freeze as much. I mean, I'm sure if it gets cold enough, it will freeze, but yeah.
Will it not taste like fish?
It won't taste like fish, no. And you might have, I mean, you said you don't like tomatoes, but that's what a GMO is. If you've heard of that or seen a sticker on a vegetable or a fruit, that's for genetically modified organism, something like that. You guys have to fact check it. Do you fact check interviews? You should fact check me.
All of our apples have a
So-
sticker on it.
Yeah, some of them are just stickers to like check out
Oh.
at the market,
Someone
but at
kind
the
of
grocery.
convinced me once that those stickers were edible, so I kept eating them.
Yeah, I don't think you should eat them.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I usually
no.
take them off and I just put them on my shirt. Those stickers because I think they're
Mr.
kind of
Wendell had
fun.
a whole collection.
Oh yeah,
A
our
collection
teacher
of
from
stickers.
last year.
Yeah.
There was like a wall, and he would put every time he always ate apples.
Like, so,
Yeah.
like 5 apples a day.
Wow.
And like every time I would see him, he would be eating an apple.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he would get those stickers and put it on the wall until there was a whole collection.
That's kind of fun. You collect all the
Yeah.
stickers. You see, wow, look at all the apples I ate.
I bet you never went to the doctor.
Right,
Yeah.
apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
That's a good reference. Yeah. So genetics can be very creepy and very cool.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Have you ever helped solve a mystery using genetics?
Ever helped solve a mystery? Yes, I have. So I've had patients that there was something different with their baby when they were pregnant. And you guys know what an ultrasound is? You probably
Yeah.
like
Oh,
remember
yeah.
your mom saying I had an ultrasound?
Yeah.
So that's when we take what's called a probe. So it's this thing that we put on someone that's pregnant on their stomach,
To see.
and then we can see on the TV what baby looks like. And sometimes baby looks like an alien, depending on how old they are.
Yeah.
Because it looks really weird, especially if you look at it like this, it really looks like an alien. It's kind of cool.
Weeks, my sister and my mom had an ultrasound
Yeah.
like in a few weeks, and she didn't look good.
Yeah, it looks really funny,
Yeah, it
right?
looks-
Yeah, and baby
My
like
mom would
is
bring
really tiny.
pictures like of the
Mhm.
baby. I would be like, that's weird.
Like, what are we looking at, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
like abstract art,
Like,
where you
I-
have to
my-
see, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Is this the face? Is this a foot?
Like I saw like there was a part that kind of looked like the arm, but I wasn't sure if it was the arm or like the head.
Yeah, I get confused.
My-
The people that do the ultrasounds, they help me understand what I look at. Yeah.
You can tell.
My sister, when she was like first pregnant, like the first few stages of it, it looked like there was a lima bean in her
Yeah,
belly.
you're right. Yeah, it does look like that. And some people say like how big their baby is depending on how long they've been pregnant, and they'll say a different fruit, right?
Yeah, my mom
Right?
would be like every time it was
Like
like
it's
a
it's a
different
kiwi,
month.
it's a blueberry.
Yeah, she
it's
would
an
be like-
eggplant.
My
Yeah.
sister had an app. It was called the Bump app.
Yeah.
And it like said it like, oh, it's the size of a lima bean, a strawberry, a pomegranate.
Yeah,
Until
because
it
it
got
helps you. We
bigger
all
and
know
bigger
how
and
big
bigger
those
and
are.
bigger.
Yeah.
So it really helps you picture like how big is that. So sometimes I've had patients that are pregnant, and we look at that ultrasound and we say, well, something's a little different. Maybe that baby has some kind of genetic condition. So we do more of that genetic testing, and I have to figure out, well, what do we see on ultrasound? So we might see that maybe, baby looks a little different. And so I take all these clues together, just like a detective, and then I decide, well, what test will I order? And I have to decide what test, or maybe many tests. And then from that, I might be able to get a diagnosis on what condition that is. So that's kind of the detective part of my job. Yeah, so I've been able to solve some mysteries that way. Yeah.
Now we're gonna do some middle school questions.
Yay, all right.
So what was middle school like for you?
Middle school for me. So middle school was overall very fun. It won't be a surprise for you guys for me to say science was my favorite,
Yeah.
right? Is that what you thought I was gonna say?
Yeah.
I also really loved playing field hockey. Do you guys have a field hockey team here? Or maybe the high school? And I know the high school does because I used to play them
Did
when
you
I was
like
at
math
Brookfield.
too?
I liked math, but I found it really hard, and I still do. But I still could go into science, and I've done very well in science, even though I'm not good at math. So there were times I liked it. I liked geometry, but I didn't really like algebra. That was too hard. Calculus, I didn't even get there. I only took the class before calculus called pre-calculus. Statistics was a little more fun. But I really liked my middle school, but I think the hard part for me was fitting in. I think it can be kind of hard and just figuring out like who my friends are and what clothes I should wear and what music I should listen to. So part of it was also hard. Overall it was fun, but figuring out how to fit in, I think that was kind of hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can go.
When you were in middle school, what did you want to be when you grew up? Oh, I think you said this.
I don't know if I did, because I said it in high school. In middle school, I don't think I knew what I wanted to be. I knew I liked certain things, like science, and I liked reading. I read a lot of books. But I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be yet. Do you guys know what you want to be?
I have
wanna
no
be a doctor.
clue.
A doctor? Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense. You
that's
asked
what
me
I
if
was
I want to
gonna
be a
say.
doctor.
I
You
was
want to be a
gonna-
doctor?
yeah.
Very
Just
cool.
Like a pediatrician.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about
I
you,
don't
Jessica?
know.
Not sure? Okay. Yeah. I didn't know either, so that is quite okay. You don't have to know until, like, I'd say until, like, you're 20. So you got a long time. Yeah.
What are your favorite middle school memories?
Middle school memories. I really liked playing on the field hockey team, so that was very fun. I really liked when we would have guest speakers come and we would all get in the auditorium or the gym together and someone would speak to us. I thought that was really cool. We got to like hear from people that maybe had a really bad accident or something and they shared an inspiring story, or you know, maybe they had a disability or something. So I thought that was really fun. And I think just I was a Girl Scout. You guys know what Girl Scouts is?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was a Girl Scout for 13 years,
Oh.
from kindergarten all the way till I graduated high
Do you have
school.
badges?
I have lots of badges, yes.
Did you
So
save them? Save them?
I still have all of them, yeah. I would have brought them today if I knew
Yeah.
you'd ask me about that. So I was a Girl Scout for 13 years, so that's a lot of good memories in middle school. Camping, my mom was a
sounds fun.
leader. Yeah, it was really fun. I really liked Girl Scouts a lot. Yeah.
I like when guest speakers come in.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, only because they waste time.
You get to do something different, right?
Yeah.
It's not your same schedule. Yeah.
Now we're in the fun question.
Okay, fun
I want
questions.
to tell her something.
Okay, you tell me something.
I remember, it was this year, I'm pretty sure, that
Yeah.
we would, for this block
Mhm.
7, we would go down to the auditorium and we would like do karaoke with
Ooh,
everyone.
yeah.
that's so
And we
fun.
got to sing.
Would you get nervous singing in front of
Like
people?
at the first time, we were so nervous.
I would be really
My
nervous.
legs were shaking. Like
Yeah.
I could hardly
But
stand.
then when we got
Yeah.
like we were singing Moana. But then when
Okay.
we got like on the stage, I didn't get I wasn't that nervous.
Were you up there with other people or by yourself?
No, I was with them and then
Oh, you together? Okay. That makes it way more fun.
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
then a lot of people started singing along.
so it was
Nice.
like better.
And did you know all the words because you've seen the
Yeah.
movie and you like
Yeah.
know it? That helps too.
Mhm.
Yeah, very cool. I like that. I sing in the shower in the car a lot. I sing
Yeah,
on the way
same.
here. Yeah.
Who was the person that helped you follow your dreams?
My mom, definitely my mom. She's the one that actually found my career. She said, I found what you should be. And I said, what is that, Mom? And she said, a genetic counselor. And I go, what the heck is that? I don't know what a genetic counselor is. But my mom is very supportive. And she went to this middle school with my aunt and my uncle. Yeah, she went to Rogers Park Middle School. It's old. Yep, my mom was a student here probably in the mid-70s. So she's like 60-something now. So she's, yeah. And I was telling one of you this when we were walking. When she was a student here, there were no walls. There was no walls.
My teacher, Miss Rourke over here, told me, because I found out her walls were like metal. She could stick anything.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's cool. And then she's like, when like at the beginning, there were no walls.
When it was a brand new building, when my mom was a student here, there were no walls.
How did they make it?
She said it was hard. So they would have these things called room dividers, but it didn't go all the way to the ceiling. So if the class you were in, you could hear the other classes going on next to you. So it's very distracting, she said. But she met her best friends when she was a student here at this age that she still hangs out with all the time. Yeah, so maybe that will be you guys decades from now.
Even like with walls, I can still hear some kids over
Right, yeah, you can hear some laughter, but it's not very loud. Imagine if there wasn't walls.
Oh, that would be.
And there were just like little almost stands. Like kind of like your green screen over there. So imagine if it was just like that between the classrooms. That would be I wouldn't be able to focus.
Even with I'm not sure if they had a gym.
I don't know.
The gym,
that's a good question.
Be really loud.
Yeah, that would be very loud. Like all the basketballs and
Like
people
like,
what's the answer to the next question?
Right? Yeah. So it's very different. There are walls here. I wasn't sure if there would be when I came in today.
What you gonna say?
If you could interview anyone in history, who would it be?
Anyone in
About
history.
Their DNA.
About DNA. Okay. Well, I'll give you two answers. Anyone, Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, are you guys Taylor Swift fans?
I
Swifties?
am.
Yeah, I got to go to
kinda.
Eras tour. It was very cool.
Lucky.
I went on my birthday, which was really cool.
When was your birthday?
My birthday is the end of May, so Memorial Day weekend. That's my birthday.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I went. It was 2 years ago
it fun?
almost. It was very fun, and it was my golden birthday. Do you guys know what a golden birthday
yeah.
is? Yeah. So that was cool.
My golden birthday passed.
It did?
My
Okay.
birthday's on June 1st.
Oh, so you didn't really know what was happening on your golden
No.
birthday. Yeah, mine is the end of the month, so it's on the 28th. So, I was old enough to know it was happening. But yeah, it was very fun. So that would be like anybody in the world, Taylor Swift. I was a fan of her since I was your age, like 6th, 7th grade. So that was a long time ago.
I like her, but like not too much.
Okay,
like,
okay,
I like
that's
her
fair.
Songs, but
Yep. I know every one of her songs. The other person that would be genetic related would be someone that won. Do you know what the Nobel Prize is? It's like the biggest award you can get in science. Dr. Jennifer Doudna. She's really cool. She's the one of the scientists that kind of figured out how that editing works. That I was talking about, CRISPR. So that would be my genetics person. So the two of them, I'd be very happy.
What's your dream podcast episode you haven't done yet?
I think it would be very cool to talk about being able to look at all of someone's genetics and see what we can learn from it. Can we predict the future? I think that might be cool.
What other podcast have you been a guest on?
Oh man, so many. I've been on some parenting podcasts. I've been on some radio shows. I was interviewed by NBC, so that was very fun for their YouTube channel. So a lot of other fun podcasts, a lot of science podcasts. Yeah. So yeah, I think I've been on over 50 podcasts at this point, so a long list. Yeah, hopefully way more to come.
Do you know about Utsi the Iceman's DNA? Do you even know?
I do not. Who is that?
Oh my god.
You gotta teach me now.
Wow. It's a man that's frozen ice.
No. So it was we're in the Alps.
Okay.
In
the mountains?
The Utsal Alps mountain.
Yeah.
And
there was. And it was like, I don't know, 1991, I'm pretty sure, 1991.
Yeah.
They found a body of a...
September 19th of 1991.
Of this guy, I guess, Utsi. They named it Utsi the Iceman. And he was just like frozen there dead.
Wow.
But his body was like still there because of the ice.
Because it's frozen,
Yeah,
right?
Still preserved. And then 2 hikers, I'm pretty sure, found him.
Wow.
But they weren't being cautious when they found the
Yeah,
body.
they thought
so
it was
they
just like a doll head or something
they
like
found
that.
they were using their they're kind of like axes.
And they were just like, bah, bah, bah.
And they
Like-
took
Oh, they didn't realize that it was like
half
a
of the
body.
they thought it was a doll.
Like,
oh, wow.
When they saw him, they were like,
Wow.
scary.
That's How did you guys learn about that?
And
Mr.
and
Bettis.
Mr. Bettis,
Social
the
studies.
best
Okay.
social studies teacher.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
shout
yeah.
out. No, that's very cool. That's interesting.
Now we're at this or that question.
Okay, this or that. Let's go.
our podcast or your podcast?
Your podcast,
Yes.
obviously.
Oh, yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. You knew I was going to say that.
Playlist or podcast?
Podcast.
Yeah, yes, yes.
You can make a playlist of a podcast. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a hard question, but yeah, podcast.
Pop or rock?
I'm going to surprise you guys and say rock, because I grew up listening to rock, even though, you know, Taylor's my number one and she's a little more pop right now.
It
But
would be a little like a
but
good.
I
rock.
want Taylor to do a rock album.
Yeah.
That
How's
would be
that?
cool.
That would be
Yeah.
really cool, right? Maybe that's the next album. Let's
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope she releases Rep TV.
We need Rep
Yeah.
TV. When do we think we're getting it?
Taylor's version. I don't know. I think iHeart radio station.
Okay,
Yes,
maybe.
Yeah, because she was like filming it.
Yep.
Yeah, and stuff.
Do you think we'll get Rep TV before debut, her first album?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. All right.
She's surprising a lot of her fans.
She
Yeah.
surprises me all the time. Yeah. Yeah, definitely Sophia. Yeah.
Coca-Cola or juice?
Juice. I can't drink anything carbonated. I can't drink anything with bubbles. It's a sad life.
Same.
Same? Yeah. It hurts my tummy. So, yeah, juice.
Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Starbucks. Yeah.
Okay, I'm doing the last one.
Oh, okay. Water park or an amusement park?
Water park. Easily. Way more fun. And
Yeah.
like water slides and all that, they're fun, but I don't do roller coasters. I'm too scared. I don't like that feeling in my stomach when you're going down.
At the
Not
end
about
of the
that.
year, I'm not sure. I don't know if you know, but jumps and
No.
throws? It's like a trampoline park.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. There's one in Bethel. Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's also
I've been there.
and
I was
as-
the oldest kid there. Yep.
and as a field trip, we might go there or this place called Quasi. It's an amusement park.
Love
and-
Quasi. I
and
went
a
there when
water
I was
park.
your age. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
it's
a
very
field trip.
fun. My grandparents lived like 10 minutes from there, so we used to go there a lot. Yeah.
Now I'm so excited for this question.
Okay.
I don't know. We were talking about it yesterday, so I came up with it.
Okay.
Type A blood or type O blood?
Type O, because that's what I am.
Oh.
I'm O positive.
A
Yeah.
blood, type A blood has the more chance of having stomach cancer.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
That's what
Oh,
I
you're
thought.
teaching
Oh,
me
so-
science.
No.
And type O blood is the most common to
Sophia's
have.
shy.
No, that's a cool question. Yeah. O
Oh.
blood.
Can I do this?
Sure.
What advice would you give to a young podcaster like us who want to make their interviewers great or want to start a podcast in the future?
I love that question. I like that you said podcaster 3 times because there's 3 of you. So that was like an Easter egg, like Taylor does, right? So I think, like you guys did, you did a really good job preparing for the interview, right? You had questions ahead of time that you knew you wanted to ask, so you researched me a little bit, right? You knew I have a podcast. You knew that I'm a genetic counselor. You knew that I grew up in the area, so you did a great job researching. You also had great follow-up questions, right? So it wasn't everything that was on the page. So you had some questions that you were curious and just said in the moment. You're like, what about this?
Because like when we were talking about it, I'm like, what about like this question?
Yeah. So that's such a good job. I think making sure that you ask a lot of people to be guests, and it's okay if they say no. So I get rejected all the time. And I say it's kind of like dating. You got to put yourself out there, you know, once you guys are older in high school or college or after college, you know. But I think you ask people and you might get a no, and that's okay. I get rejected all the time, right? But you got to keep shooting your shot. So I think that's important. And yeah, whew. So yeah, you guys did such a great job. I think a lot of people could learn from you 3 as podcasters, and you've done so many episodes. This is episode 79, right?
Wait, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
cheating. It's in
Yeah.
front of me. So, but I think really coming up with who your dream guests are and just inviting them and seeing what happens. And if they say no, that's okay. You just move on to the next person, right? They might just be busy, you know?
Yeah.
But just keep doing what you're doing and follow your passion, right? Of like who you want to interview, what topics you want to talk about. because that makes for a really good episode.
I have a question. How
Yeah.
long have your videos? Like, what's the longest video you've had?
An hour. So similar to you guys. Yeah, because the interview with Danbury Library, that was over an hour, right? Yeah.
Have you watched our videos?
Yes, and I'm very impressed by it, and I think it's so cool because I was years older than you when I started podcasting, and you guys are really good at what you do, so I'm intimidated a little bit because you guys have started at such a young age, which is amazing. I wish, people say, like, when I tell them, oh, I started podcasting in high school, they're very impressed by that. But I can't imagine if I said I started podcasting in middle school. So that will really add to your resume.
Let's all do the conclusion.
Okay.
The outro, but we need it. We have
No,
one
first let's do.
question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wait, who's doing that?
Finally, how can our listeners find your podcast?
Sure. So they can just search DNA Today. So they can search it wherever they listen to this podcast. If it's on YouTube, we're on YouTube as well, DNA Today. Spotify, Apple, our website, dnatoday.com. So we're really easy to find. Yeah, thank you for asking.
That concludes our discussion with Kira Dineen.
You got it. Yep.
Dineen.
LA,
We
I got it.
truly appreciate you spending time with us today to tell us a little bit about yourself and your profession. Thank you for tuning into another great episode of Rogers That Podcast. See you next time.
Bye.